This episode is part 2 of having Lisa Buhelos and Randy Ho on the podcast. We continue where we left off and talk about their cultural backgrounds. It brings me great sadness and hopefulness to say that this is the last episode I recorded at Saratoga. And for the last time, until next time, please show some love to Lisa and Randy. Welcome to Wear Yellow Proudly's Through Our Lens, Conversations with Asians and Asian Americans. I am your host, Julia Sanchez. Asian identity, Randy.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're back.
you,
So
man.
yeah, I was saying, I grew up Vietnamese but my parents divorced, and then I grew up with a Mexican stepfather
Yeah.
for most of my childhood into adulthood now.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy because it's like I never really got along with the Vietnamese kids. Maybe
Oh,
because
did you
like
not? Okay, wow.
yeah, but I think it was partially on me. You know, I personally just I didn't want to hang out with them. You know,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
even now it's like it's really hard to find Vietnamese Americans in opera. You know,
1,000%.
where
Yeah.
it's very rare that I meet somebody who's like, yeah, I'm Vietnamese and in opera. I've only met one person in my entire career so far that has been like, yeah, I'm Vietnamese, right? And
Yeah.
that's my friend out in California, right? Of
Mm.
course, she's out there, but now it's like I've met one composer. You know, his name is
Okay.
Dylan Tran, and we've talked about collaborating, and you know, I love his music. He's really
Yeah.
a wonderful person, and he works out in Nashville.
Okay.
No, New Orleans Opera.
New Orleans.
It's coincidentally him and Haley are like really good friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
It's
my
a
love
small
interest
world.
in Pasquale
Nice.
happens to be Dylan's like friend. who's,
Oh.
like,
It's friend
done work.
opera.
So
Oh
yeah,
my God.
it was a little crazy to
Yeah.
think about, but like it's always hard for me, especially in opera, because like I think I fit into the world of like romantic tenors,
Mhm.
you
Yes.
know? And for a while there, and I'm shorter for sure, you know, being like 5'6", as I like.
So
to
are half the
advertise
tenors I
myself.
know, with
Yeah.
respect. Like, they're not any different from, like, your...
It's about looking proportional for some
Well,
reason.
and also, I've known of sopranos that, like, never really get to wear heels much because their tenor counterparts
Honestly, I think
are.
that's
Yeah.
why they took off Haley's heels.
Oh, really?
And I was like,
Oh,
no, I'll
really?
leave them on. You know, this
I
is the era of the
love-
short king. Okay?
Yes, I
Leave
love
me
your
be.
height difference in the show. I
Yeah, it's
love
great.
it.
Well, it's like it doesn't feel like there's that much of a difference.
no,
you
no,
know?
there isn't.
And
like-
honestly, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's for me, it's
Short
especially
King's
like this
rise.
last couple of years where like it's been hard to find Asian leading roles or people who are Asian and in leading roles in the same capacity.
100%.
Within the last 5 years, it's been more prominent though.
Yeah.
Like I grew up and I like one of the tenors that showed up for me was Andrew Stenson, like I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier, and he was like one of the first tenors who like I saw doing romantic leading roles.
Yeah.
You know, he was in Barbara Seville when I was in college
Oh, wow.
when I saw
Wow.
him. And then there's now Brian Vu, who I
Mhm.
see all the time, and even Kang Wang now. But like, I think
Yeah.
it's the whole like, it's more accepting of whatever race you are to be in a leading romantic
Yeah,
role because love is
Yeah.
love now, right?
Right.
Especially, and I really appreciate like, you know, I don't always love his content on Instagram, but Simu Liu,
Okay.
right?
don't
I
know.
watched him on like
Oh,
growing up.
yeah.
Yeah, the Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Right, and
Mm.
it's actually a pretty good movie.
I do love
did
that
enjoy
movie.
that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it was like when he became a superhero, everybody kind of was like, Asian men can be leads, and like the whole Crazy Rich
Yeah.
Asian effects,
Yeah.
where like they started, but then it was like Jackie Chan did it first.
Oh, 1,000%. I was literally just thinking of Jackie Chan.
I was like,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan was that guy for me. Like when I thought of leading role actor Asian,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan, Jet Li,
Yeah.
my top two.
Yeah,
right there.
like I grew up with both, and it's funny you say that because on my TikTok this morning on my feed, I was watching this video of Jackie Chan with his daughter, watching his older movies, and
Aw.
like you feel bad because like you see the bloopers that he's had before, and like especially I think like his more like Asian movies,
Yeah.
you know, like his body is just all kinds of broken.
Yeah.
and like you
He
know,
threw
it's
himself
insane.
into like everything he's done.
Well, like
Yeah,
there's like a whole
literally.
reaction video of his entire life and every injury he has, and he's just like
Yeah.
watching, he's like remembering, and it's so like it's actually kind of heartbreaking to see.
Yeah.
Where it's like he
It
went
is.
through a lot to get where he's at,
Insane. Yeah.
and like it's. I mean, don't get me wrong. Tom Cruise also messed up his
yeah.
body pretty
Oh my
bad.
God, yeah.
But like for
His stunts
us,
are
I
pretty
think
insane.
like
But what, I
he
feel
was
like
the guy
could-
who like
yeah.
marketed. We knew, especially for me growing up, is like he does his own stunts.
1,000%.
right?
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
You were saying something.
Oh yeah, I was saying, I feel like Tom Cruise, especially now, gets like a ton of credit for doing all of that, but I feel like we always forget about Jackie Chan. And
Yeah.
he was the one who I feel like he did it
100%.
first.
I mean, Rush Hour.
Rush Hour,
No,
oh my God.
was insane.
Yes.
One,
Oh my God,
two.
1000%.
Number 2 was like the one I like grew up watching first.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
number 1 I had to go back to.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, part 3, oddly, is still very, very good. I would say.
Absolutely.
Like part
Still
3, Rush Hour
funny,
Part
dude.
3 is still really, really good. Not PC at all.
No.
PC.
Today they would not fly.
No,
but
no,
like,
no, like,
it's still so funny.
I was watching them. I think like God in the past few months, and I was like, this is not really standing the test of time, but still, this is some really good. This is really
But
funny.
like
Yeah.
I think that's like one of those things that like we grew up with. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the shows that we grew up with, or even like even now, the shows that are being put on opera stages are not well written for today's
No, oh
audience.
my God, no, absolutely
Oh,
not.
Right?
we had that
No,
problem
absolutely
with Gentleman's Guide. With,
Yeah. Oh my God, 1,000%. Lady Hyacinth Abroad is pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty messed up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, but I will say, like, the Rush Hours. I mean, like, in general, like with especially Rush Hour movies, was that it's racial satire.
Yeah.
And so like, yes, it doesn't. It does not stand the test of time. However, I think that's the point of it, is that
Yeah.
the jokes of Asian people and the jokes of like black people and stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is in jest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's like one of the nice parts about like the community that we have in the opera industry now, where it's like we are trying to band together a little bit harder. We don't have the same sense of community, but I do feel like there's a community of us.
Yeah.
Even in the last year, where I've met a lot of Asian artists, and like
Yeah.
we've currently talked about next year possibly doing a recital together during Pacific Islander Month.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my
It's
God.
amazing.
You know,
That's
where it's
insane.
like that to me is going to be really special. Where
1000%.
and like the concept that we have right now, where is like bringing music from our own cultures, even if it's not
Yeah.
directly
Oh, cool.
to us.
Yeah.
Where like I have like my friend Kayla, who we've talked about her doing some Japanese pieces on the
Oh, that's so
recital,
cool.
and then we have another friend, Emily and Bijou, who Emily's also half Japanese, and Bijou is from China, and so
Yeah.
she was thinking about bringing some Chinese pieces that were being premiered in China and big composers, and just doing it out here, like an art song recital.
Yeah.
And like that's
Yeah.
one of those things that Dylan just had a brand new song cycle premiered in the last year
Oh my
called
God.
Poems of the Ocean.
That's so cool.
And it's like it's really reflective because he's also Vietnamese American, but him and I also grew up similarly, where we both didn't grow up speaking Vietnamese very well.
Okay.
And I've only learned this through interviews, and like we
Yeah.
talk over Instagram a lot, so I've never met
cool.
Dylan, but
Oh, okay.
he's so
Yeah.
like they're so cool.
Yeah.
Dylan uses he they pronouns or
Mhm.
they he pronouns. I think it's
Mhm.
they first.
Okay. Okay.
But
Good to know.
they kind of just became this big face for me recently,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
where they want to collaborate
That's
and
wonderful.
share the stories that are possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I really admire that, especially in our community where none of us are really trying to get ahead of each other but support each other.
100%.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's been something I realized in the last year, where it doesn't feel like a competition
As
as
it
much,
shouldn't be.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's like I think when we think about in competition, especially auditions, I hate it. I
Yeah.
do not
Terrible.
like it, but it's like it's part of the job,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know.
I agree.
And
Yeah, I mean, having a group like this, just this podcast too, where, I've never had like a group of singers like band together so much and try to uphold, each other and root for each other as much.
Yeah. As it
Yeah.
should be. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, especially in this industry, I was telling one of the other young artists this, it's such a hard industry where, being mean and being, trying to put down other singers, and it's already challenging enough. Why do that to
100%.
somebody? Like, and especially, where like, we have like our own like difficulties
yeah,
like
100%.
in this industry, and like finding our place in this industry, you need to really band together, because like a success for like, one Asian person, I believe, is a success for everybody.
No, 100%. I like
100%.
I do appreciate that about like every Asian artist going out. I mean, even the Met this year put up I'm trying to remember her name as Zerlina this year at Don Giovanni.
Oh, she was
amazing.
beautiful.
God, I'm sorry I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was
I don't know.
I
incredible.
saw the
But then
the
it's
clips
like,
of her.
I watch a lot of like I guess like it floods my Instagram now.
Yeah.
With like just kind of looking to see where our representation is.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily seeking it, but I'm just seeing it.
Yeah.
You know, I just think it's always like we have a very different community that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have to like identify. It was just because like we don't have the same shared experiences across our own various cultures.
100%.
Right. And so that is the hard part about us banding together is that
Yeah.
one reference will never make sense to another group of people.
100%.
Yes.
But I think it's important that we have a single connecting point,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and kind of look at it almost like, and I have a very weird identification of like this thing called chaos theory, where we're looking at, for me, the definition of chaos theory is seeing the interconnections of all the madness going around us. And so
Yeah.
for me, like, especially in this situation where it's like the madness of each one of our cultures and the very unique ways that we express ourselves, but finding the intersects of where they are. For me, that is like a better way of understanding chaos theory in my head. I don't know, somebody correct me out here in the world, but I like seeing where the gray zones are.
Yeah.
You know, between Filipino culture, Vietnamese culture,
Yeah,
Japanese
of
culture,
course.
Vietnamese
Yeah.
culture, or even between like Chinese culture and Japanese culture. Even though like
Yeah.
our countries have had a very difficult time either trying to empathize with each other or try to understand each other. I think here in the States, it's hard to find work and have that issue with somebody. You know?
Yeah.
It's like that to me is like something that I would love to step forward in moving past.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of ethnicity, you are Asian. And
Yeah.
whether or not you're Asian or Asian American, we're not going to get into that distinction because we could talk all night about that.
100%.
But like that is a shared identity we have. Maybe the experience is different, but we have to, you know, stand up for each other
yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
Because
agreed.
if you don't, then who will?
Right.
Right? And it's just like one of those things that I see now that I appreciate. Like this year was my first time I ever covered an Asian tenor. And that was crazy to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I've
So,
never
in
seen
my
it
career,
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I've never met Andrew, but I love his work.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
I've never met Brian, but I'm fully supportive of his work.
Yeah.
And like this year when I got to see, you know, Adam, the guy I was covering, he's half Korean, half German, right?
Yeah.
It was nice to like almost have someone to look up to in a cover role.
Sure.
And
yeah.
like
Yeah.
understand the identity
Yeah.
because he sits on like our AOA board
Mhm.
as well as sits on the AGMA board.
Mhm.
And just to kind of have him be there is like not a mentor because he wasn't really a mentor. He's just somebody who I talk to every now and then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But to have that experience is really cool because it lets me see in perspective like where I could be if
Right.
I really continue with
100%.
this career. And I think that's really important because
Yeah.
we all need to kind of have somebody to look forward to
Yeah.
being like, not being like exactly because
Yeah.
we're not that person,
Right.
and you can make your own choices, but to see yourself in their shoes,
Yeah.
you know.
100%.
And I don't know, he sung Carmen's and Pinkertons
Mhm.
and left and right around the, like not Carmen, Jose's
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Pinkertons
yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And this was his fourth Rodolfo,
Oh my God.
you know, which was crazy to me.
Yeah.
And like you could you watch him make a full 360 and have
Yeah.
him still sound like he's in your face.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
insane.
Oh my God.
But like it was really cool to think about like, you know, is this what they hear from me? You know?
Mhm.
And being like on the other side of thinking about being on the other side of the audition panel,
Mhm.
it's like weird to think about.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Where it's like I don't know what they heard in me to make me think I sounded like that guy, but there's an
Yeah.
amazing amount of ping that
Sure,
comes off of
yeah.
him.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just, he's just
We
a
love the ping.
huge voice. Like he just did Fro at Atlanta Opera
Mhm.
in their Rheingold.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, that's a huge
That's
role.
crazy.
Right?
That's insane.
And right now he's like covering no, he's not, he's performing Cavarodossi
Oh,
at
where?
Charleston.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but like do you have anybody that you like in our communities that you like are wanting to meet or like close to?
Ooh.
Regardless if they're Asian, or you can be like somebody who you watch their work and you want to meet.
Let's see. I mean, I used to look up to Natalie to say a lot.
Oh,
absolutely.
cool.
She, like I said, it goes back to the acting aspect of this, where I felt that, I felt like in opera, like acting was always like it's number 2. Singing is the first.
Her Marie is so good.
I just love her Marie. She's just she blends. She lets like the acting influence her singing, and I love that. I do.
Did you watch the one with
The Met-
JDF over in I think it's Paris, where they just have like they sing the duet and they just never stop kissing because they're like.
I think so. I think
God,
yeah.
it's such a
so
good.
good.
I've only seen the Met HD live.
Yeah, this one's on
With
YouTube.
the tank.
You can find it. I'll send it to you.
Okay,
Ooh,
cool.
I will say, Sumi Jo was one of my first like sopranos.
Ooh, yeah.
I looked up to, and I mean, she's just has the most gorgeous voice, and I was like, ooh, another Asian soprano singing all the rep that I want to sing.
Right.
And that was like a big moment for me. I think for me personally, because I do musical theater, a big moment was when they cast the first Asian American Christine on Broadway. Because Christine is, I mean, it's like my dream. That's the reason I started doing this. I wanted to be Christine in Phantom of the Opera. And my...
I've never seen it. Sorry.
Oh, I hate you. You suck.
It's okay.
You need to... Sorry.
I
sorry,
love
viewers.
the music. I've just never seen the show.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
It's so
Insane.
like, I mean, it was one of those shows where like, even my parents, they don't know anything about musical theater or opera, but they were like, this amazing opera, Phantom of the Opera. No, they didn't say that, but they loved Phantom of the Opera. And I like grew up with that, and I wanted to be Christine so bad. And like, I don't know if you found this with like, since you started with musical theater, I felt like when I went into opera, I felt like there was like more opportunities for me because it was about the voice. It wasn't about your looks.
Oh, 110%.
Yeah, like
Absolutely.
musical theater, it's about your look. And I remember...
I'm still told I'm too short for music theater.
oh,
But I'm like, I don't care.
so there's short music. It's the time of the short kings.
Absolutely.
And the thing is... And
Okay, just clarify for people. I'm not that short, okay?
You're not that short. You're taller
I'm like
than me.
5'6". Just put that
No,
out there
you're
to the
taller
world.
than me. You are not that short. But yeah, like so...
My teacher likes to remind me short is an
Your
advantage.
teacher's shorter than both of us.
I know.
Your teacher is
But I
so
love him.
short.
I love him.
I don't think he'll ever watch this, but Jason, I love you to death.
Well, it was like, but I've met other tenors who are like shorter than me in this industry.
Lawrence Brownlee, how tall is he?
He's probably like
He's a
around
little
bit-
shorter
bit-
than me. Like,
I
it's
think-
like we stood
no
next to
way,
each other.
really?
Yeah. It was because I just did the master class with him.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
he's
right.
like
Russell
he's a-
Thomas isn't that
but
tall
like
either.
we look similar in height because I slouch a lot.
Oh, you do?
Slightly. It's more that sometimes I get my shoulders get tired.
Oh, okay.
And so like I
they're
just hunch
they're
it.
too
I'm
big,
like,
dude.
I'm still working out. Don't worry. That's cool that you like Christine has always been that role for
Yeah.
you, and like Natalie Dessay, love her.
Exactly. Well, like I remember when the first Asian Christine was cast. Like I was like since I was a kid, I was like, I just want to be Christine so bad. But she's Swedish. She's pale. She's brunette. I could never be
Oh, that's
her.
Tony for me.
Yeah.
Because he's Polish.
Mhm.
Tony's not Italian. He's Polish.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all didn't know that, I didn't know
That's
that
right.
until recently.
He is.
Yeah. So I was like,
Yes.
this is crazy.
Oh my God.
But it's like
But yeah.
in opera, you don't have to look that way just because you're singing in Italian, French, German, Russian, whatever language you're singing in, because there's opera in every language now.
Exactly.
You
It's
don't
about the
have to
voice.
look that way.
Right.
You know. Now, granted, if the role is written and says an Asian American in the role like it does in an American Soldier,
Yeah.
probably should.
Yeah, if the point is race, then like you should.
Yeah, I mean like that.
Yeah.
But that's the point in Porgy and Bess. You know, it's put
Right.
in
Oh my
there.
God, absolutely.
You know, for me,
Yeah.
but like American Soldier by Huang Ro is one of those pieces, or like Nixon in China,
Yeah.
where
exactly.
I feel it's like if you don't, it kind of defeats the purpose of what the piece is trying to portray.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think of like old productions like Madame Butterfly?
Or Twiddendale.
Eternity.
You know, here's the thing. I think that's the past. There's no need to continue the same practices today.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and we've talked about this in various conversations, and even in the world and any messaging board we have.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't just cast Asian people in Butterfly,
Yeah.
and Turandot,
Yes. Yeah,
and
yeah.
like all these roles that say, but like, don't go to the point of mocking the culture.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
like where I draw the line personally is where don't do yellow face, don't do black face. Like
Yes.
but
Yes.
you know, like I don't mind seeing a white Chocho-san, I don't mind seeing, like, if like,
Yeah.
I don't mind, like, seeing, like, like, any kind of person, like, performing the role.
I would just rather
There's
that
no-
they can sing the role well.
1,000%, because I do
I
think it
agree.
sheds a really cruddy light if you racially cast it correctly, but then that person was terrible. Then it's just like, oh, well, like,
yeah,
Well, and
that's-
like,
that's
and
not-
that's
that's
the
not the
thing.
thing.
It's just like, I want it to be good. I just don't want you to make a caricature of my culture.
yes,
Yes.
yes, 100%.
You know.
I 100% agree.
Oh yeah, so I know for that show, like like I said, that was my grandpa's favorite opera was Madame
Mhm,
Butterfly,
yeah.
and like I think there is a way, like that show can be
it's-
done
yeah.
in such a beautiful way. It's beautiful. I don't think it's a mockery of our the culture
No,
at
I
all.
don't think so.
I think it's an appreciation of it,
Mhm.
and like granted, like and so as long as you approach it from that, like
Yeah.
just hire who
100%.
can do it.
Yeah. But I also would say if you are going to do it, and I do like the AOA approach, the
Mhm.
Asian Opera Alliance, for those who don't know what AOA is, and I've mentioned
Mhm.
it once already, but the stance that we've taken and agreed upon is, if you are going to cast your Asian singer in that role, offer them work outside of
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Follow-up
Mhm.
work that isn't just pigeonholing them into
Yes.
that
Mhm.
work.
Oh yeah, well, like you
100%.
hear so many stories about Asian opera singers, and like with Porgy and Bess, black opera singers. That's the only thing that they're ever cast in.
I've known of
And-
some singers that some black singers that like refuse to pick up Porgy and Bess just because they don't
Mhm.
want to continue to only be seen as that.
Yeah. But it's all now. It's like, it feels like it's a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
And that's as somebody who has a marketing degree, yes, it is important to show, but this is just blatantly put it in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody likes being the poster child.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Like, tokenism is still a live thing
100%.
in a lot of places, but
Especially with
do it in
Asians.
a way that's organically okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mix it
Yeah.
in, put them in
Grant-
real
yeah.
situations,
Mhm.
and ask permission.
Mhm.
And let them know.
Yeah.
And if that's the way you're going to go about it, in opera at least,
Mhm.
Mhm.
have multiple people be involved in the process that are from that culture. I know that,
Yeah.
if I'm going to watch a Madame Butterfly, I'd like to see if they did their research and have a resident expert on the culture there. I know
Right.
when Opera Colorado did it, they had a lot of representation in terms of the admin side and the chorus, and people just
Yeah.
being involved who actively were trying to learn.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's cool to me. Now I don't want it to be misrepresented. Don't just put them in last minute. Have them be a part of the whole process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And then I think too, it's important if whoever is in the role understands exactly what they are portraying, whether
Yes.
if you have a person who is not necessarily of that race playing the role of Chocho-san,
Mhm.
at least I think you should take the time to learn about the culture, learn
Right.
about exactly what you are doing, and
Right.
learn to appreciate it, and to because then I feel number one, that will help your performance more, but number two, you'll know exactly why you were telling the story you were telling.
Yes.
But
100%.
okay, so maybe let's take this ask this question here for me. But how do you feel about modernizing certain roles in opera? Outside of just
Yeah.
Butterfly and
I don't
Turandot.
think Butterfly should be modernized.
But I don't. Yeah,
I don't think it'll translate well.
No.
If you with Butterfly, I think with a lot of things, especially bel canto and stuff, I think
Yeah.
it's so easy to be able to do so.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is really important. I know what we've done it with Pasquale has been
Yeah.
extremely
Great.
thought through.
Yeah.
Well,
no
I
kidding.
was wondering, you also did Pensacola right before this, and
Yeah.
you had to do a lot of outreach. I know outreach is a very thankless job sometimes. Sometimes you get a great group of kids, and sometimes you get a not so great group of kids.
Oh man, those outreach, but outreach is so important.
Mhm.
And,
I think so,
as
too.
much as we complain as singers about
Yes.
doing an outreach show somewhere else, I see the
Yeah.
importance, and I understand it's there's a lot of politics involved with outreach shows where it's
Mhm.
grant funding, doing
Yeah.
this, donations in kind.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole financial and political understanding of why we do them. I still do it for me as being that first time they're going to watch opera.
Yes.
You know, and like even the
1000%.
upcoming year where I have 2 real operas that have been abridged and put in English for kids. It's a really cool experience to think about like what's happening. And this year I had to perform the Bremen Town Musicians to kids, and I consistently they were just like excited and in awe.
Yeah.
The fact that like
Oh my gosh, yeah.
we're singing so loudly without a microphone.
That's always the first thing. I had to do outreach at my last gig too. And like one of my favorite things was when the what did he sing? Deviani
Non Tarar?
no. It was a baritone aria from Don Giovanni.
Oh, okay.
Deviani alla finestra.
Oh,
So yeah.
that one.
Yes, but one of my favorite parts of our show was when he sang that. Every single kid, their jaws dropped, and I was like, wow, you know, people like these kids, you know, this is the first time they're experiencing this, but they have an appreciation for it far more than I ever gave them credit for, and I think, you know.
I mean, for me, it's like watching Blue's Clues sometimes.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it's the first time you're getting an educational lesson while also through a show. Now, Bremen Town Musician doesn't always have a lesson. Let me just put that out there. But it's a cute show for like getting kids involved and just being exposed to like a lot of Offenbach. Actually, a lot of Don Pasquale is in Bremen Town Musicians.
Okay.
Like the whole ha 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 is actually in the show. So I sang that throughout the year. But I was also singing La Donna Mobile throughout the year in like 4 different keys.
Dressed up as a chicken.
Yeah, I was dressed up as a rooster. His name's Eddie Pensier. You know, that's like kind of the story.
That's
and
incredible.
It's a little ridiculous. And like the moral of the story, like one kid asked us like, what was the point in the story? And it was like, the point of the story was the oath that you just took, because it's just like one of those things where it's made to tell you, consider the feelings of everybody just because it's important. And I just remember like kids say the darndest things.
Kids are crazy. I've heard doing outreach, you hear some of the craziest
Also,
things.
they never liked the rooster. They liked the cat and the dog more. And I was typically offended.
Not
I
the
don't know.
rooster.
They also always thought the donkey looked like a rabbit.
No.
Oh, okay.
But that's because he had super floppy ears, and like
okay.
they were like, yeah, we like the cat and the dog because they could recognize that it's a cat and a dog, and they remember like, that's my cat. I have a cat. You know?
Yeah.
And like they're so cute. But I remember one time we were told by some kid that like, what happened to the pirates? And I was like, oh, we scared them off, right? Because that's how the story goes. And the kid looked and was like, oh, I would have shot you with my BB gun.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I was like,
Oh my
you scare me, kid.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So, but like, those are the funny stories about outreach that you'll just never get back. And like in my upcoming season, when I'm doing Elixir and Cenerentola for kids,
Fun.
yeah, because like,
Okay, but like I can see those mesh very well. With
yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, they're totally. We're doing both shows just separately, and like it's for them, and like, yeah, the music is real. Like they're using the real music, and it's like, Quanto e Bella is like, he loves me, she really loves me, and that's like, or no, I love her, I love her, I really love her. It's like one of those things where it's like, they're going to get that. You know, they're going to understand that.
Yes.
It's almost an OTSL approach too, where it's like these operas are in English, and I'm really just grateful to have the chance to like learn these 2 roles that I have been in awe of since I started the repertoire and just have never picked it up. You know, but it's like,
I was gonna say, like, I feel like the Uno Furtiva would be really rad.
oh, that's don't worry about that. We're not gonna talk about that yet. But like,
I mean, I remember like doing outreach, like, you know, it's the first time a lot of kids are hearing opera. And like, and you know, you get to the end, and you know, it's always amazing when kids are like, so where can I go see this again? And like, how do I see you again? And you know, despite all the craziness of outreach and the crazy things, you know, you see, and some of the crazy things kids say, just to hear one kid say like, how can I see this again? And wow, that was really cool. You know, opera can be cool. It makes, you know, it's like I mean, I was really skeptical doing outreach the first time. I was kind of like, oh man, I have to go sing for kids at like 8 a.m. But just hearing that just made all of those 8 a.m.
You know what I
worth it. Yeah.
just thought about though? Like a lot of our friends here grew up with music in church, right?
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't the experience.
Wait, how did you get in? I mean, I know
It was choir. It was 100%
Just choir?
choir. I learned how to be in music because of choir.
Yeah.
And then for me, it was like opera was like a forethought later.
Yeah.
So I really thought I was going to go into choral studies, and then I realized I couldn't
Wow.
blend.
Did
Okay.
you have
We're
any
like, screw
family?
Unless I was singing baritone, and which is like
You blend to me.
clearly. Yeah.
You are my backup singers.
But it was like it's very interesting because a lot of people say like I was exposed to opera at like in first grade because of an outreach program.
Yeah.
Like I know
Yeah.
4 or 5 people from like my immediate friend group right now
Yeah.
that I'm like that's how they got started, and other people are like, yeah, I just sang solos in church and it was like a
Yeah.
big thing, and I was like, that's weird because like I guess this is a really Asian experience though. It's like if you didn't go to church, where would have you been exposed to opera?
Yeah.
You know, for me it was because of school,
Right.
and without an outreach show, because like the first show I was technically in that was like an operetta was Pirates,
Oh, cool.
but I was sang in the chorus for like 30 seconds.
Sure.
And it was a
Yeah.
school production, so I didn't really do it. And then like later on when we did opera scenes, I sang some crazy stuff I probably should not have been singing, to be honest. Well, so like my first opera scenes program, we did a lot of music theater, but then when we did it with the entire voice department at my high school, I sang like the Tenderlands with the full
my God.
chorus.
Oh my
Copeland?
gosh.
Oh my
Yeah, I like sang the solo
Oh my
for that.
God.
I'm trying to remember the solo.
Yeah.
But
There's,
like
there's a really pretty art. There's like a really pretty
yeah,
aria there.
but it's like the whole like
do
where
love-
he sang it, and then he sings the main melody, and then we use the Copeland choir arrangement right after that. So it was like
yeah.
it led straight into that.
Oh, I do love Tenderland.
And then I did a lot of Candide. Like I've sung
Oh,
"Make Our Garden
wow.
Grow" since high school. Everybody uses it every year.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we
You
doing?
can never
Okay,
escape it.
okay,
Can't
okay,
escape
but
it.
like I love Make Our Garden Grow.
The scream
Yeah.
fest that one is
It's,
sometimes. And it's always surprising
yeah.
to see who like hasn't sung it before to me.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I've had it for so long. This is one of those things.
Yeah.
But then it's like I also did like the first scene with the school, I guess. You know, and that the quintet at the beginning, and then I've also did like Easily Assimilated. The
I
duet.
love that.
I
If
So
you have a
it's like-
very, if you have a very good low voice
I mean,
female, like, oh my god,
Please do
Fucking
Yeah.
go
Easily
for it.
But that was like
Assimilated.
those are some of my first opera scenes.
Oh, those are
Like
so
and
good.
that's crazy to me that to think about now,
Yeah,
where it's like,
Yeah.
man, it has been almost 10 years since
Yeah.
I would have done that.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
we're coming up on 10 years since I've done it. Jeez, I just aged myself. That's weird.
Oh God. Well, you know, it's kind of crazy because at my school, so I went to like the kids at my school were like crazy talented. Like we have in my class alone, there were about, including me, like 4 people who got vocal performance degrees, which
Crazy.
which
It's
is a
insane.
crazy number, and like you know they were like, and then like a girl I was growing up with, she like a couple years ago won the Met competition,
Oh,
and
insane.
like it's a crazy community, and
Yeah.
like I mean I thought I started late and I was 16, but like I was talking to my voice teacher, and she has this philosophy that if a kid is ready to sing a hard aria, might as well give it to them to spark their interest. And so I had that's what I want to hear your,
bonkers to me. I'm sorry to say
like,
that. That's
intro.
weird to me.
Well, like so like there was a girl, I was talking to her about this. She was singing Norina's aria at 16.
Oh my god.
And I mean, and she could do it.
Oh my
So,
god.
but, and like for me, like her giving, like she gave me crazy arias. I sang Tornami. That was like my first aria. But okay, so my teacher, she had a very good track record. One of her students won the Met competition. She's like a very, she's at the Bayreuth studio.
Oh, is this?
Bayerisch?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
The
yeah.
Sierra.
Staatsoper?
Yes.
The Bayerische Staatsoper? Oh my god.
Yeah, she's
in
one.
Germany? Oh my god.
Yeah,
insane.
I mean, I haven't.
Dude, getting out to Europe is like a pipeline dream
I would
sometimes.
wanna
Oh
do
yeah,
that
like
so
I feel like
bad.
almost every singer
Talks about going out there, and it's just like one of those things that seems really daunting.
I know. Well,
yeah,
you have
but,
to do,
well, but I
like, a
feel like
whole
it's the same thing with.
tour.
Well, I feel like it's the same thing as like like living out in New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do
but
you-
even like even like when it's always like another thing in our world where it's you go from college
Yes.
to
Yeah,
masters.
man. Oh yeah, masters.
Like it's like a dance around. Like where do I go for my masters?
Yes.
And then you go into the whole young artist circuit. And if you don't go into the young artist circuit, then it's like opera chorus circuit. There's just so many paths to continue being in this industry, and everybody talks about it. But then it's like,
Yeah.
you know, me and you have been fortunate since graduating to at least get offers into young artist programs.
Yes.
As although like multiple people will not, you know,
yeah.
which is an insane
Exactly.
like thought.
There are so many singers from my year who are so talented, who they just haven't had any luck with it.
Yeah.
And
But like
it's-
I think
yeah.
that's on the young artist program side.
I think so.
Though
Yeah.
too, it's just like they get
A lot of
for
people
like
fall through the cracks.
I mean at most maybe like they have slots for 40 people
Yes.
for like a summer program, but for
Yeah.
year longs, that's 4 or 5 people for
For
the
most
year.
of them,
Yes.
yeah,
6.
for like C and B houses, it's
Oh my gosh.
or like D and C houses are like 4 or 5, including the pianist.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was just at Fargo. It was like 5 people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No.
and Pensacola
yeah.
is every voice type plus a pianist,
right.
Yeah.
and so that means only 4 singers for the
Same
year.
Thing same thing with Opera Orlando, and like, yeah, it's nuts. It's not.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it's like there are so many amazing singers here that will never get the chance, and I always feel like I'm so lucky. Sometimes, even though like I've worked really hard, you have, like as a soprano, especially like I have never run into a soprano who was not ready
Yeah.
to be in the position that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like the hardest working people,
1000%.
100% is
Yeah.
always going to be the
Like-
sopranos.
Well, we
knows,
talked about
knows the
that.
privilege.
Yeah, like I mean, the thing is like the harsh reality of it is, as a soprano, you're very expendable, and if you show up and you don't know your stuff, like through and through, you're getting fired.
Well, I mean, we talked about this a billion times. Is that if you show up to a festival and you're not memorized, or you don't know your music, you're dismissed.
Yeah, I mean, especially at the bigger ones where you are expendable
Yeah.
at that point, and nobody is safe.
There's
at, like,
there's a
the
lot.
biggest
It's
programs.
it's similar to where like in being a cast member at Disney is like they're continuously reminded that there's 100 people that are waiting to take your job.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
And the thing is, like, and at the same time too, like there's so many people. Like we are so fortunate to be here. I am so.
Well, but also like both of you are really good too.
Thank you,
Yeah.
But there are so many people who are so good, who they're not working this summer, and it's a tragedy.
I know a lot of people.
And the fact of the matter is like if you don't take this opportunity and don't do your best, I feel like it's just a disservice to those who really did want this job and wanted to be here, and
Yeah.
well, that's a panic attack for me. Is like now, especially because I have had opportunities where I just did not feel ready, and tenors get away with a lot of things, right? Guilty as charged, absolutely, but it's like.
But you're a good tenor. You learn your stuff.
Thank you, but like even so, like it's hard to not feel bad when you were the weakest link.
Yes.
You know,
1,000%.
for me, like that's because I have the team mentality in my head. I have seriously a big fear of being the guy who's holding everybody back now.
Yeah.
Ever since I graduated from my master's, that's how it's felt. It's like I don't like the feeling about being the guy who's not ready first day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no,
That
I
is a
get that.
huge
I
fear,
don't.
Yeah.
I think that like I mean again like I've only known you for a month, but I think knowing you for that month, I don't know, like understanding how you're like in your work ethic and just how you're like I don't think you have to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Randy's like Pasquale score. He showed. I remember, or just the way he was like learning. I remember like one of the first days. I think we were like getting coffee or something. We were like sitting in.
I
the
forgot that you like looked in
mall.
that score. God.
Yes.
Dude, that thing
years
is marked
ago.
to crap.
It's marked, and the way that you learn is just so precise. Like, you have a notebook, he like writes everything in, and he has like flip sides, and it's like, when I was like,
oh, that's just my memorizing of the words.
Right.
Yeah, that's
My
how it
score
is.
is even
Yes.
marked up with arrows left
Yeah.
and right. But that's because
Score is
like,
crazy.
and maybe I shouldn't need to tone it down because it's like a lot of it's not useful information later on. When I'm in performance, because
Yeah.
like even now I'm looking at these arrows, I'm like, I've gotten this
I
right
wonder.
enough. I can erase it. But like that's
get
kind of
that.
like, it's just like I have been the guy who's been the latecomer,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
and it's always made me feel awful.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but that's like not being prepared for a job. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it just
100%.
feels like
Yeah.
I'm letting people down, and maybe that's just because like
Yeah.
maybe it was some developmental things for me where it's like I've always had things where I have felt like whenever I've been burned, I've always gotten up and shown everybody that I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like it's one of those things that like I continuously do without
Yeah.
knowing it, and then I have to pick myself up.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me where it's like, you know, even in the process now, I've watched a lot of people not be ready and get ready. Like, it shouldn't be a reward
It
to be
should
ready,
definitely not
Yes.
be a reward.
No, that
or
should
to
be,
like
that
catch
should be,
up.
Yeah, that should be the bare minimum.
You know, and like I know
Yeah.
for me, I don't ever want to be praised for me catching up.
100%. Well,
Right.
because like again, like you're meeting the bar.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
That's-
like putting like antiseptic on a scar.
Yes.
You know, it's the work was done, but it's already healed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's too late. Where
Yeah.
in a sense where it's like you can't come back because like
No.
there's a sense of trust that's burned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like for me that's, you know, it brings back bad memories when I can't do that.
Yeah.
And especially in our industry now where it's so small, especially as you like get into smaller circles,
Yeah. They talk.
everybody's closer. Like, you
Everybody
know
knows.
my teacher
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the smallest world.
As soon as you said Jason, I'm just like, Ferrante.
And
No,
like,
I was like, I know
Ferrante.
exactly who that is.
but then
Like,
there's so many of his students that I know
Yeah,
too, when
yeah.
I've gotten to
he has,
know.
he has like everybody is his student. Like it's
yeah, it's
I'm not
insane.
surprised when I meet
Oh,
another one of
God.
his students.
But I always admire the Sopranos who know this and work doubly, triply as hard as everybody else in the room
Thank you.
because you don't have a choice.
They have
Because
to.
you
Yeah, it's
are.
nuts.
Because like, what was it
Yeah.
this year for certain? Like for our spots, there were 1,000 people and 600 were Sopranos.
Yes, I believe so.
That's
Mhm.
insane.
It's what, double the amount. I think
Yeah.
regularly it's double the amount of all the other voices combined.
yeah.
exactly.
Like what I've been seeing from statistics.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then
yeah.
even for like year-long auditions,
Oh
like
my god.
what I think
Oh,
I heard
yeah.
from Pensacola this year, that like they had over 900 auditions for 4 slots.
Yes.
And
That's crazy.
I can only imagine the majority were Sopranos.
I was
Oh, yeah.
one
The
of
one slot.
those.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but like, and then I think about like my opportunity up this upcoming year, and I'm trying to
Yes.
think about like how
Congratulations.
many people. But like Colorado
Opera
also.
Colorado.
I know, yeah. So if y'all didn't
Yes.
hear, I will be a young artist with Opera Colorado.
Yeah,
in the
Yes,
fall,
he will be.
all the way till like the next year, and
a big homecoming.
you know, yeah.
Wait,
I mean,
it's
it's a
for 2
huge
years?
home. Yeah, it's 1 year.
It's 1 year. Oh,
But
but,
it's-
but like it's for the season. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
it's
Yes.
for the season, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a big homecoming for me because like I graduated in the Opera House.
Oh my
you
god.
know.
Oh wow.
That is
So
insane.
like, and I
What?
performed my like the first show I did at that Opera House was Carmina Burana, my senior year.
Oh, cool.
And then that was like a whole art school district thing
Uh-huh.
where we did it with
That's a
this art
crazy.
school in Orange County. We did it with Duke Ellington School of the Arts in DC.
Oh my God.
We did it with Las Vegas School of the Arts, and they all came to Denver
Yeah.
to then do a big collaboration with us all.
Yeah, yeah.
And we put on the Carmina Burana,
Insane.
right? And it was crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on that year, it was my graduation,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd always do it at the Opera House.
Yeah.
And so like for me, this is a whole big opportunity because it's the first time I've gone back to the Ellie Calkins for a performance
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
outside of college.
Right.
But this
Such
will
a-
be the first time
yeah.
that I perform a solo role
Yeah.
with the company.
Yes,
right.
kid.
And so
Yes.
it's a really cool thought to like have this homecoming in a sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's like it's a little strange to think about like there were so many applications
Yeah.
for the slot that I have.
Oh
and
my
that
gosh. Yeah.
to get it is a very lucky thing, and I understand that I am a tenor, but even so, like there are still over 100 tenors who
Yes.
applied for my spot.
Yeah.
you know, and there are plenty of people who maybe got an offer to them and took and just turned it down. Who knows? Like, that's things I think are, I say these are useless thoughts because there's no point in putting the energy into thinking about and other than just focus on the gratitude.
I always say, as long as I'm the person with the contract, I don't care how many people were before me. As long
100%. I always remember this from my first festival was that, you know, you're already here, you know.
Yes.
You already earned your spot, but also you don't have to continue to prove that spot.
Yeah.
But also understand that privilege in that way. And in your own way.
But I also think it's like the importance of like, just because you have that slot, it's about getting that slot again.
Yes.
Yes.
That you 100%. Like have to think about. And that's like, that maybe is like a stressor for a lot of people.
Sure, yeah.
But for me, that's like an excitement thing. Is just like, I want to be invited back to places.
Yeah. Of course.
Gosh,
yeah.
You know, it's like one of those things. And you.
I was going to say, like, for me, like, the thing that does kind of keep me, like, going is this constant. I feel like, you know, as a soprano, and, like, you know, I have to constantly prove myself. Like, I have to show up. I have to know my stuff. I have to be, you know, at the top of my game. And like, you know, like today we did a master class and I was like, I have to like prove myself. Like I always feel the need, like I have to prove myself. I am here to do a job, and I have to do a job exceedingly well to prove myself.
But are you doing this for you, or are you doing this because you're a soprano? Like, and you need to prove it to the room.
I'm doing it for me. Now, like, I mean, honest, I feel the need, like, to constantly, like, do that because I feel like I owe it to myself to do that. And, you know, like, you don't want to give people any excuse to not rehire you.
Of course.
And, like, that's the way I approach things. Like, I cannot give them an excuse to not hire me and to not, like, you know, feel the need to, like, you know, like, to rehire me or anything. Like,
100%.
Like, that's the goal for me in any audition situation and any job, is to not give them an excuse to not hire you.
Absolutely.
But what I am grateful for with the young artist track is, like, yes, on occasion it feels like you're at the bottom of the barrel and, like, you are treated as sometimes cheap labor depending on where you are. But it's an opportunity to still sing and learn.
Yes.
Because it's like, through my exit interviews with Pensacola and maybe here, I'm always thinking about how I can improve. You know, and like as a soprano, I feel like that's a looming thought all the time about what you can do better. Yes. And like as a singer, that's the hard job, is to know yourself and know what's the worth of the next step. You know?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I am always looking at my faults as ways to improve. You know, I'm not perfect. There are plenty of singers at A-house companies that are not perfect singers.
No.
Right?
The moment that you can't, like, think of something to improve on, I feel like that's just when you stop, because you need to, like, even the best. I mean, I grew up playing tennis. Like, my family's a tennis family, and, like, that's what, like, I started with. And I remember, like, talking to my mom, like, about, you know, like, world-class tennis players like Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and she was like, you know, those players, they're at such a high level, but they're still working on their game. They're still working on their shots. They're 100%. Still working on their form. And, you know, like, and that applies to singing too. You constantly are working. You're constantly 100%. Working on your technique, working on your form, working on your acting. And there's so many elements. There's always something to improve.
Yeah.
You can't, like, strive for, you know, just being, like, acceptable. You need to strive to be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, 100%.
And that being said, though, we can't be as hard on ourselves. I know that, like, for me, especially as the lived experience I have, and maybe other Asian Americans have this, is that I am doubly as hard on myself because of the way that my parents influenced me. You know, like the way they expected me to get certain grades, just like that lived experience. And maybe people can empathize with that. But, you know, I am so hard on myself in practice rooms that it's a little crazy. And this year I got the opportunity to talk to, like, multiple Met covers this year who got to, like, talk to me, and they were like, this year I got the chance to be on the Met stage and perform a role, which is great.
Really?
Yeah. It was like one of those people where I've like just was talking to, and those are one of those stories that's like amazing.
That's so cool.
But that person also said I got to be in rehearsal rooms and realize the names that I look up to are not perfect voices.
No.
They're not perfect people, and we
What
need
a
to
humbling
remind
thing.
Yes.
ourselves
Yeah.
that like nobody in our industry is going to be perfect.
No.
Pav said most of the days that were recorded were his days that he felt bad.
Mm.
Like there was
Mhm.
the only perfect days he ever
Yeah.
felt were days that were not in the opera house.
Mm.
Yeah.
There were like 2 days that he ever said he was like, I was in perfect voice.
I think it was Beverly Sills that said this, is that she's only ever performed a role at like perfectly ever. She under her like classification of perfect ever in her career, like 4 times.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, like that's Beverly Sills. I think that's insane.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I think a little grace, especially for your own self, goes a long way.
Yeah,
You know,
and so like when I hear like we need to be harder on ourselves, no. I think we need to accept the fact that where we are is where you are, and there are always places to continue to improve. You just have to have a plan to improve. I think that's the other thing that we are not told, that how do you improve? You have to make a plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
for
sorry,
sure.
there's no way to like improve without
Yeah.
an idea in your head on like how to do it, or even ask somebody how they did it.
100%.
And so like
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's like I'm always thinking about the latter.
Mm,
But that's
mhm.
just me, because like
Yeah.
I can compartmentalize my goals in that way,
right.
And sometimes it's a long goal and sometimes it's a short goal. But I mean, after you graduate from school, it's learning how to be disciplined as a
Yes.
singer.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, how do you do it without school to be there to guide you,
Yeah.
right?
For sure.
Because then you're spending way more money on
Mhm.
coachings
Right.
and
Right.
teachers and lessons when you have the facility to teach yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
learning how to do that is a skill that is so important now that I'm like realizing
Yeah.
while we're on this gig too. It's just like being able to learn multiple pieces of music without thinking too hard about it.
Mhm.
It's like, well, how will I say that?
Yeah.
While also being present in the current show that you're doing is
Right.
one of those skills
Right.
that I'm learning right now.
Right.
Oh yeah. Like I mean, yeah. Like you have to be aware. You have to be, on it. But for me, when I do my best work is when I'm not thinking at all. Like I had a teacher who did say, I don't know which teacher, but I remember, according to my friend, one of our teachers said, some of the stupidest people are the best singers. And I related to it way too much at the time. Because, you do all this preparation, you do all of this work, but when you get to the moment, you just got to go turn it off and trust the work that you did.
Yeah.
Because if you think too much, you're going to stop yourself from getting the best result possible.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's such a good place to like wrap up our place in this podcast today.
Yeah.
I think that's like a really nice thing to end where we were at. But do you have anything else for us?
Yeah.
No, actually, I wanted to ask, where can we find you, social media wise? And
Oh, let me think of my handle. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok.
your website.
No, please, you can look me up on lisabuhelos.com. That's lisabuhelos.com.
Mine is way simpler than that. Jesus. Mine is just Randy Ho Tenor. That's going to be my Instagram handle, and my website, so randyhotenor.com. Yes, it reads as Randy Hot Tenor, but it's such a coincidence.
Randy Hot Enor.
Yes, that. But yeah, you reach me through that, and I'll be at Opera Colorado next year as the season artist.
Yeah.
And trying to have fun with them.
Thank you guys so much
Thanks,
for being
Julius.
here. I really appreciate you both being part of the podcast. I'm really shooting for this to be a part 1 and part 2. And yeah, how exciting. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Can I give you both a hug?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. We release episodes every 3rd and 5th Tuesday of every month. If you enjoyed this one, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or follow. If you'd like to join us for future episodes, reach out to wearyellowproudly@gmail.com. Once again, this is Wear Yellow Proudly Through Our Lens, conversations with Asians and Asian Americans. I'm your host, Julia Sanchez, and we will see you on the next episode.